Good morning, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as finfanatic.com and the Fansided Network. The Dolphins play the Texans this weekend. It has been 55 days since the Dolphins have won a football game. And this has got to be it. I mean, this has got to be the game that the Dolphins win. This is where the schedule starts to lighten up a little bit as we go over the next couple of weeks. Throughout the next month and a half, they've got the Giants, they've got the Jets twice, they've got the Texans. Then again, I'm sure that those teams are looking at at their schedule and saying, "Oh, we've got the Dolphins to play."
Yeah, they're also probably looking at their schedule going, Jesus, we can't lose to them. Similar to us with the Jaguars. I mean,
yep.
Let's face it.
And just looking back, I mean, look, I expected the Dolphins to, once they go 1-1 against the Bills, lose 35-0, obviously huge disappointment. Tua gets hurt. They lose in overtime to the Raiders. The Colts game was a killer to get to 1-3. We expected them to lose to at Tampa Bay and at Buffalo. But yeah, those two games in the middle, the Jaguars in London and the Falcons at home, where the Dolphins looked like they were going to win at the end, and they didn't. Even if the Dolphins were sitting here at 3-5, we could say, okay, got an easier schedule coming up. There's some hope there. Now the Dolphins, if you look at their schedule, they basically have to run the table if they're going to get to the playoffs, which, let me be very clear, I don't expect.
Yeah, I don't think they're running the table either. I know I brought up last week that it was still mathematically possible, and a few people grabbed onto that with the, what is he, crazy? No, it's mathematically possible. They're not technically eliminated yet. Are they going to do it?
That's the best thing we can say, yeah.
Yeah. Are they going to do it? Probably not. But
so before we get to that, Paul, the Texans game here, let's put a bow on this Deshaun Watson nonsense here. Trade deadline is passed.
He ain't here.
Yeah, he ain't here. And I've got another bone to pick before we get to the Texans game too. The night of before the trade deadline, the Dolphins were attempting to speak, according to reports, to Deshaun Watson. Steve Ross was apparently granted permission, but didn't actually speak to Deshaun Watson, according to Josina Anderson. The Dolphins owner, Steve Ross, wanted a chance to talk to Watson, but it was not granted in time. No deal. It's unbelievable that it got this far. And it's almost like the Dolphins decided, hey, we're trading for Deshaun Watson. We're going to sort out the other pesky details about whether he's going to go to jail or whether he's going to actually be able to play later.
Yeah, I mean, if I went to a car lot and they had the car of my dreams there, and they basically said, well, we noticed a problem with the motor and the check engine light was on, and it may just explode at any point when you drive it off the lot. But we want you to pay 10 grand above asking price. It wouldn't be much of a conversation at that point. And I think there was way too much conversation as it is, despite the talent level, based on what we know and what they were expecting to happen, in a week.
Right. You have to say, every other team in the NFL said, no, because of the legal situation, we're not going down this road. And the Dolphins said, well, let's decide if we want Watson first. Let's come up with the trade compensation. Oh, and then we'll figure all that other stuff out later. Oh, and by the way, we want all this legal stuff to be resolved by the trade deadline. Well, that's not going to happen. That was never going to happen. And to get into this without the most elementary understanding of what needs to happen for this to work. I mean, how are the Dolphins going to clear out $16 million in cap room by the time the trade was done? And if that wasn't the case, what is the harm in waiting till after the year to pull this trade off? If the asking price is 3 first-rounders and more, what's it going to be after the season if he is cleared or these legal problems are put behind him? You think a team's going to trade 6 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks for Watson? Like, that's what never made sense to me on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could probably come up with some suggestions on how they could clear some cap space, and I'm sure our listeners could as well, but I won't digress that far into that at the moment.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. If Chris Greer and Brian Flores in any way are here at the end of the year, which I hope they are not, Deshaun Watson is going to be a Dolphin. I firmly, firmly believe that. Otherwise, what the hell have you been doing all along? Because why would you want to talk to the guy if you know that this can't get resolved? The only thing I can piece together is they said to Watson, which is disgusting to say, is once the legal situation gets put behind you, we are going to do everything to make a trade. We want you here, and we're going to give you everything that you wanted in Houston, which is say so in personnel matters. Because if anybody has outstanding judgment when it comes to personnel decisions or anything in life, it's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I got
what a
news for you
joke.
too. Even if Chris Greer and Brian Flores aren't here at the end of the year, Deshaun Watson is going to be heavily pursued because Steve Ross wants Deshaun Watson, and any GM hiring is probably going to have a question in it like, "Are you going to go get me Deshaun Watson?" And if the answer is not yes, he's probably going to go, "Okay, cool, thanks for coming in, bye." Um, but that's me.
Yeah, I think too that Watson may be Steve Ross's pathway to keep Chris Greer and Brian Flores here another year, regardless of what happens.
I think they'll be here anyway, unless they end up 1-16. I think they'll be here anyway next year, but next year is going to be a trial by fire year.
And we've seen what happened in year 4 of the previous regimes too. I mean, you look at year 4 of the Tony Sparano area. Dolphins started out 0-7, which, by the way, 10 years ago, the Dolphins won that game at Kansas City. 10 years ago, almost to the date, I was actually at that game where the Dolphins went 1-7 with Matt Moore, but they started out 0-7 that year. Then in year 4 of the Joe Philbin era, Philbin was fired after 4 games. So if you've decided the head coach isn't good enough, why are you giving him a 4th year to try to turn it around? But there's still a lot of football left to play here. It starts this weekend against the Texans, and every week it seems that we feel like we've hit rock bottom, and then another layer is excavated out, and then we find a deeper rock bottom. So here could be the next rock bottom, Paul. The Dolphins fall flat on their face in the Deshaun Watson trade, embarrass themselves in front of the whole country. Tua misses the game with a finger owie, and Tyrod Taylor comes unexpectedly off injured reserve and beats the Dolphins again.
Yeah, well, here's the other. Before we fully dive into the Houston thing, just a real quick one, because talking to problem players, Dolphins are second in the waiver order with OBJ hitting the waiver wire, and Devontae Parker just went on IR.
I mean, why not at this point? I mean, it would be entertaining at least. I mean,
Yeah.
I think OBJ is one of the most overrated players in NFL history.
Oh, absolutely.
He's I guess he's entertaining. He turned 29 the other day, so it's not like this is a guy who's 23, 24 years old. It's been several years since he's been at the top of his game. When he was in Cleveland, the Browns were not even close, better with him off the field than with him on the field. He never meshed with Baker Mayfield. There was the whole social media mess between them. He doesn't block. He's somebody that can make plays down the field, but we didn't really see that with the Browns. So I would even signing him at $7 million a year. I mean, or $7 million for this year. I just don't see what it would accomplish, but I guess he's an entertaining player.
Let's say might put some butts in the seats, and never underestimate an owner's ability to do that, or attempts to do that, especially when you really don't get to see the benefit of going 1-16 because you don't hold your own first round pick.
That is very true. So looking at this game, the Dolphins are favored by 5.5. It is at home. They've, over the last several weeks, there were times in the third or fourth quarter we thought the Dolphins were going to win, or the game was close. I mean, you look at the Bills game at the end of the third quarter, it's 3-3. I we had the feeling that they were going to blow it in the fourth quarter, and they just got steamrolled. But um, you know, this has got to be it. This has got to be the game that the Dolphins put a win in the win column. And they're going to do it without Devontae Parker if they do. And Jerome Baker is questionable again. Looks like he's probably going to miss his second straight game. Obviously, nobody knows where Will Fuller is. He's got a finger owie too. And if not, he's probably going to pull his hamstring walking into the building. So going to be another big game for Mike Gesicki and for Jalen Waddle.
Should be.
And might be a big game, too, for Savon Ahmed or Myles Gaskin, because the Texans on defense are allowing to opposing running backs, and I thought this was a misprint, 6.43 yards a carry to opposing starting running backs, and 5.3 yards a carry on 195 rushes to opposing running backs. So, I'm looking for, if I'm seeing the same open holes that the Texans were allowing against the Rams, then I don't know. I think I have a feeling this might be a big game for Savon Ahmed.
It should be. I think Gaskin could have a big game too, but I've been saying this all year, and I'm not going to change it now until the Dolphins change it for me. The Dolphins have an uncanny ability to get away from what's working. It also wouldn't surprise me to see one of the two come out, or the two combine, for 12 carries for 110 yards in the first half and finish with 14 carries on the day. That would not surprise me with this regime right now.
They would have to be, they'd have to be down for that
to
happen. Now, I still maintain that, and a lot of people think it's the other way around, and I understand. I believe that the Dolphins have a talent deficiency first and foremost, and then the coaching staff makes it far worse. That's what I believe.
I believe they have holes, but I believe, as you do, that the coaching staff right now is making it far worse. It's just like, last week they were making things work with guys like Gesicki and Parker in the first half. They interviewed Flores on the way to the locker room, and suddenly he decided, well, we need to get the running game going in the second half and show more dedication to the running game in this one. And all I could think was, how stupid. Like, hopefully that's just your little ticker tape answer for the bottom line. Like, there's no way you're getting away from Parker and Gesicki in the second half. But they dedicated themselves to the run last week. God, yeah, that just.
Well, looking at last week too. I mean, just a few. A few of the drives too. The Dolphins get the ball in good field position. First two plays are just runs straight in the middle of the Bills' defense, and now it's 3rd and 7, and we can see the run coming a mile away. I mean,
you don't have Derrick Henry. You can't run straight at the defense's best strength over and over again and expect a successful result.
And you can't expect the offensive line to open up holes. I provided a few clips on my Twitter page of Austin Jackson and his lack of effort at the point of attack, just getting thrown out of the way. I mean, it's bad.
I wish I could not care about my job that much and be fine.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that he's still in the lineup. Whatever. So the Texans defensively, they've got Jonathan Greenard, the former Florida Gator, 7 sacks on the year. Other than that, the Texans really don't bring a big pass rush. In fact, their whole defensive line is a mess. The Dolphins' offensive line actually could get the upper hand in this one. If they play a decent game because, other than, at defensive end, they've got Jonathan Greenard, they've got Jacob Martin, who they got in a trade last year, and a defensive tackle. They've got Malik Collins and Ross Blacklock, two former day two picks. Texans drafted Blacklock in the second round, and the Cowboys drafted Malik Collins a few years ago in the third round. Texans signed him this offseason, but they're more get in the backfield type of players. So the Dolphins are going to have to watch that when Tua drops back. But there should be some wide open running lanes. And I just watching the past few Texans games, you see that consistently, especially in the first half. And there's going to be a familiar face at middle linebacker for them. Camus Grugier-Hill should be their middle linebacker. Did some good things for the Dolphins last year. I was actually kind of hoping he'd be back. But when he's your best linebacker, you've got a problem.
Yeah, he should be a top guy off the bench, not your starting linebacker. He did do some good things, but he did some god-awful things as well. He was a better linebacker than Fedulum was a safety. I'll give him that.
Well, joining him at linebacker might be Neville Hewitt, former Dolphin as well. Zach Cunningham is also in there, but I'm surprised he wasn't traded. The Texans have really reduced his snap count. I think he only had 12 snaps last week for them. So Hewitt and Grugier-Hill probably going to be their top two linebackers with Christian Kirksey out. If you can't get the better of this god-awful Texans defense, especially on the ground, I'm going to think we are trending toward 1-16.
Yeah, no, I couldn't argue with you either on that. I will say they do have a lot of interceptions up in the secondary. I think they've got 7 on the year so far. So, that is something to keep an eye out on, especially with Parker out. I'm kind of hoping we have a Mac Hollins and Kirk Merritt coming out party in this game, though. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to see, Mac Hollins should be the Dolphins' third option there with Parker out. Obviously, no Will Fuller. And I don't know when, I'd like to see Kirk Merritt get on the field here. I don't know why he isn't. The only thing I've seen him do this year is get open, and Tua didn't see him. But yeah, to go back to what you said too, the Texans do have they have 7 interceptions on the season. They've also allowed 15 touchdown passes. And if you look at the last 3 games, to Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray, and Matt Stafford, eight touchdowns, 1 interception, a quarterback rating in the 120s for them. So if Tua's finger holds up and he's able to play here and doesn't have any issues throwing the ball, I could see him having, that 75, 80% completion percentage, kind of what we saw in the Falcons game. There's going to be wide open lanes in the passing game on those slants, on those RPOs. I would expect Tua to have a good game.
Yeah, and keep an eye out, Kat. Your boy might get called up yet again. Isaiah Ford. Pull that Ford out of the garage, baby. You need to get an Isaiah Ford jersey. That's all there is to it.
Just trade him.
You could have handled this. Well, last time we traded him, we got him and a draft pick.
Yeah, we traded him, and he didn't go away. Traded him, released him several times. This guy, he's like the Kimmy Gibbler of the Miami Dolphins. just keeps coming back, sneaking in the back door, stealing stuff.
You need to get an Isaiah Ford jersey to handle the situation once and for all.
I guess so. Defensively, the Dolphins, they need to dominate too. It's as simple as that. This is an offensive line. There is no Laramie Tunsil in this game. He's on injured reserve. Their offensive tackles might actually be worse than the Dolphins, believe it or not. They've got Jerron Christian, a cast-off from former third-round pick of Washington, and Charlie Heck at right tackle, the 5th rounder out of North Carolina. Watch them. It is not pretty for them at the tackle spot. This has got to be a game where Jalen Phillips and Emmanuel Ogbah feast. It has to be. They've got to get pressure on Tyrod Taylor. And the difference, too, I think, is between now and when Tyrod Taylor was with the Bills is he was able to the Dolphins rushed upfield with their defensive end so often with when they had Cameron Wake and Robert Quinn, where they would get past the quarterback so often. And then Tyrod Taylor would step up and he would have the option to either dump the ball off, to run himself. And that's why Tyrod Taylor had 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 72% completion percentage lifetime against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins at defensive end here with Agba and Phillips, they can rush, but they can rush with some containment, keep him in the pocket, and avoid him from running more to the outside. So I feel a little bit better about this defense being able to play against Tyrod Taylor.
That and the emergence of Christian Wilkins over the past few weeks. Well, I won't say emergence, but he has stepped up his game over the past 5 or 6 weeks. So he could definitely be a factor there too in helping keep Deshaun or Tyrod Taylor in the pocket.
Right, and yeah, that's very accurate to say. I mean, Christian Wilkins is one player I point to on this Dolphins roster this year, and maybe the only one that I point to and say he has gotten better from last year. And I didn't think I'd ever say that with Wilkins because I thought he was definitely maxed out in his second year. I mean, he was 24 years old when he was drafted. As a rookie, as a second-year player, we kind of saw the same thing. I didn't expect him to step up, but he is getting into the backfield. And this defensive line, individually, you've got good players, but it seems like we can never get 2 or 3 of them to get heat on the quarterback at the same time. Another thing I want to see too, Paul, defensively is, and you've been beating the drum all year, keep the blitz on. I mean, give that amoeba defense that you've described there, because the thing is with the Dolphins defense and the strength that they've gotten away from is that when you put those 7 guys on the line, the linebackers are fast enough to get back into those passing lanes. And in the fourth quarter of the Bills game, after it worked against Josh Allen for 7 quarters in a row this year, they got away from that.
Hey, it goes with the theme of this Miami Dolphins regime. If it ain't broke, fix it.
Exactly right. And Adam Gase and Joe Philbin had the same problem. They fix things that aren't broken, or they try to fix things that aren't broken. And if it is broke, they're like, oh well, we're just gonna have to get around that. We're just gonna have to execute better.
Adam Gase went in and broke things, just whether they were fixed or broken or what. And Joe Philbin just walked in and said, they're not broke, they're fine. Do you remember him almost yelling at me about Michael Egnew in the team lunchroom when we were down there?
Yeah.
When I asked him, like, hey, there's a lot of criticism on Michael Egnew. What do you see in him? Whoa, look, what criticism? I haven't heard it. Like, whoa, passionate Joe. Where did you come from? Go back into your cave. You saw your shadow. Go back in your cave. Like, he literally got so pissed off, I asked him about Michael Egnew and what he saw in him. It was hilarious.
I asked him, too, about Donnell Ellerbe. I think he was doubtful or questionable for the game.
Yeah.
And I asked if there was any, the team didn't say much on him and asked if there was any update on him. I don't know why I was asking about Ellerbe anyway. And he goes, well, he's doubtful. That was his response to that question. I was like, you know what? Just go outside. Pick up more gum wrappers and just wait to get fired.
Do you remember him giving a passionate answer to literally anyone other than me on Michael Egnew? Ever?
I probably fell asleep halfway through that. So no, I did not. But looking at the game here too, I know we've got we're trudging our way through this. Offensively for the Texans, basically you've got one weapon. You've got Brandon Cooks, and I feel sorry for that guy. He wants to get out so badly. It's sick. 51 catches, 590 yards on the year. After that, second in receiving for them is Jordan Akins, their tight end, with 177 yards. So Cooks 1 at 590, 2 Jordan Akins at 177. Nico Collins was on injured reserve at the beginning of the year. It's a player we liked in the pre-draft process. He was a third round pick out of Michigan. for them. So he should be their number 2 receiver in this game. At running back, David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay are atop the depth chart, but Rex Burkhead is actually the one that got the most snaps last week for the Texans. So he's another player that hurt the Dolphins when he was with the Patriots. So you've got Tyrod Taylor at quarterback and a lot of Rex Burkhead at running back. I'm starting to feel a little bit queasy about this game.
Yeah, no, and I mean Chris Conley doesn't have a lot of receptions at the moment, but he is somebody that when he's caught the ball, it's been for a decent game. I think he's averaging about 20 yards a catch right now. So I mean, even with only 8 receptions, he's fourth on the team in yardage, and that could be a little bit scary because those are the guys that tend to slip through Miami's defense. Brandon Cooks is going to have either Byron Jones or Xavier Howard on him all day long. So I'm not super worried there, even though he's going to get his receptions in this game. Jordan Akins is going to be covered by Eric Rowe most of the time. We should be fine. But that's when you get down to like Chris Conley or David Johnson catching passes out of the backfield. That's where it does tend to hurt the Dolphins at times. And who knows? Maybe Danny Amendola will come back to life for a minute.
They do have Amendola. They've got a lot of former Dolphins here. Neville Hewitt, Danny Amendola, Camus Grugier-Hill. Yeah, just
former Patriot Dolphins.
Yeah, former Patriot Dolphins. Yeah, and not a surprise with Nick Caserio there as general manager. David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay don't scare me at all. Rex Burkhead, I think, is crafty. If he gets in the game more, I've always liked him. I could see him doing a little bit of damage. But if these guys are not, I mean, there is no excuse for this. I don't care if it's Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills getting most of the throws here, because Tyrod Taylor's coming off IR. He should start the entire game. If you can't hold these guys below 20 points, I don't know what to say anymore. And offensively, I don't care if it's Tua or Brissett. If you can't put up more than 20 points against this Texans defense, I'm not going to be convinced the Dolphins can beat anybody else on their schedule. So with that, I'm going to say the Dolphins do win this game. I'm gonna go 23-13.
I'm gonna go 27-13 for this one. Miami does win this.
This has got to be it. This has got to be it.
How sad is it to have to say things like "This has got to be it. This has got to be the game. This is the one. This is the one."
But it's. I mean, there is no setup for a win, any possible combination on your schedule than this. You're at home against the Texans, okay? The team that just made you look like a fool in front of the entire country with Deshaun Watson. You should want to pound this team into the ground, and I hope they do. 4 of their last 6 games, the Texans did not put up double-digit points. All right, you've got 2 Pro Bowl cornerbacks. You've got Emmanuel Ogbah and Jalen Phillips on the edge. You got Christian Wilkins at defensive tackle. I mean, you should crush these guys into the ground. 23-13, I think, would even be a disappointment. I just hope that they win the game. And we appreciate.
It's not like, the Texans haven't won in over a year.
404 days, the Jaguars, between their last win before the Dolphins. So I think the Jaguars were and are a better team than the Texans.
Yeah.
That's the difference for me. And Dolphins have to come away with a win. You might as well win because you don't have your first round pick here if things continue to go off the rails. So we appreciate about 60 of you in the chat here being with us here and joining us here on the FinSide this morning. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the finfanatic.com website and the FanSided network. If it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the FinSide.